Today on episode 17 of the Sean and Bo Show. With the season only a week away, it's time to talk football. All football, all the time.
Yes, let's talk injuries and suspensions.
Plus, have you ever wondered what team NFL players wouldn't want to play for? A new player poll shines light on that. It's coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's another episode of the Sean and Bo Show. Sean O'Donnell, along with my co-host, Bo Greer. And Bo, God, it's so close. It's so painfully close. It's just days away until
I get this feeling 3 times a year, Sean. Thanksgiving Eve, Christmas Eve, and football Eve. Because you know what they all have in common for me? I am going to eat.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's going to be potatoes.
There's going to be lots of baked potatoes, ribs, and chicken wings all year from here into the Super Bowl, baby. But I'm excited. I can't contain myself. I wish we could fast forward in a time machine one more week, because right now we really don't have those storylines, but you just know they're right around the corner. Who's going to shine? Who's the guy nobody was talking about? And who's going to be the biggest disappointment in week 1?
And as we alluded to in the show opener there, this episode is all football, and certainly some damning injuries in the NFL. And we're going to get to those in just a second, but I got to give credit where credit's due. Bo, you know that I am a big-time Notre Dame fan, so I have zero love for your Trojans of Southern California. But, man, this is just one of those cool stories, and I got to give this guy his props. Cornerback, Josh Shaw, star player on the team. He had just been voted captain.
Yep.
Literally hours before this took place, had just been voted captain, and he was at a family gathering, and he was looking out a second-story window and saw his 7-year-old nephew in total distress in the pool, basically drowning. Mm-hmm. So what did he do? He didn't think about the potential millions of dollars that he could be losing by doing something like this. He sprang into action, literally, jumped out the window of the second-story building, landed bad, crawled on his hands and knees to the pool and saved his nephew. And when asked about the incident, he said, quote, "I would do it again for whatever kid it was. It did not have to be my nephew. My ankles really hurt, but I am lucky to be surrounded by the best trainers and doctors in the world. I'm taking my rehab one day at a time, and I hope to be back in the field as soon as possible."
You know, when I seen this story just moments ago before we came on the air, it struck a chord with me because my wife, she had a coworker, one of the people that they do a large portion of her business through. His oldest son passed away, drowning accident, boating with his friends a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
and he was around a bunch of people. And that's one of the things that I just remember when it went on. I used to do insurance, and you get all these just morbid statistics, and it's like every 3 minutes in our country, someone drowns, and it only takes this many seconds for someone to lose their life from drowning. So when I seen this story, I said to myself, I wonder if he was educated or if it was just reaction. Either way, he did the right thing, because in a drowning, you know it doesn't take long, Sean. And that young man, he saved his life. He really did. He saved that young boy's life.
Head coach of the USC Trojans, Steve Sarkisian, said that, quote, this was a heroic act by Josh, putting his personal safety aside, but that's the kind of person he is. It is unfortunate that he'll be sidelined for a while and will miss his leadership and play, but I know he'll be working hard to get back on the field as soon as possible. And lucky for Josh Shaw, the player, the cornerback, he only has 2 high ankle sprains. Didn't actually break any bones, which is pretty crazy if you think about it, but I'm sure he was in some great shape leading up to the season, so I'm sure that's what saved his own personal safety.
We're looking at that matchup. They have Fresno State. They're actually going in the opposite direction of Notre Dame and playing someone the first week.
Hey, that is
Rice.
That's unnecessary and
what is that?
Mean-spirited.
The battle of the 4.0s.
That's right. Yeah, it's the teams that have high academic standards.
Oh, my goodness.
The winner of the game is going to be awarded a giant golden calculator.
Texas Instrument calculator, obviously.
TI-84, baby.
There you go.
Now, some big-time NFL injuries that are certainly going to shake things up come the opening week of the season. None bigger than probably Sam Bradford. And this, man, I just felt so damn bad for the guy.
Are you just used to it though?
He tore the same ACL he had just torn. I mean, do you think he knew it right when it happened? Like, oh shit, not this again.
It just shows that some people are beast, because Adrian Peterson, golly.
Well, they say that the very first ACL reconstruction you can rehabilitate in 6 months, but the second one, they refer to it as a revision. That can take up to 12 months, so he might not even be ready to go for next season's opener.
What do you do? What type of? I'd like to know what types of things you would have in a contract. What kind of protection? I know there's insurance policies, but for the team moving forward, are they stuck with him, or can they start making a move to put him out there on waivers? What can they do? Because that's a tricky one. I've had that discussion with multiple people, and I'm like, I think you would have to be like an NFLPA guy to understand what they can do to Sam Bradford. Because in these situations in the past, everybody always goes and puts their arm around the player. We're going to be here for him. You Arthur Blank pushing people in wheelchairs, that kind of stuff. But this situation here, there are little old ladies that when this injury came down, they were ready to burn Sam Bradford's jersey. So let's be realistic.
You think so?
Oh my gosh, nobody's feeling sorry for him now. I had one friend.
It's not his fault.
I had a friend who's a social worker, and he is always like my liberal voice. Like whenever I'm talking about things, this guy has the opposite opinion of me. And in this one, he's like, I don't know if I just caught him on a Monday or something, but he says this to me this morning. He's like, that's Sam Bradford. And the darndest thing, he got in the league before they made the new rookie structuring deals.
Right, yeah.
So he's probably sitting on a pile of money bigger than Russell Wilson, who just won the Super Bowl.
I think that's kind of unfounded. I mean, you got to consider that the guy, probably worked his tail off rehabilitating from that ACL, worked all summer,
back to college.
Was probably so stoked to play.
Yeah.
And then in preseason, not even a game that matters, tears the same ACL. Just tragic. But he wasn't the only injury. Some other big-time names. Wes Welker suffered yet another concussion. And this is a problem for him. This is 2 now in a year. If he gets another one, which he might, definitely, in an NFL season, I think the rule is that he's going to have to be sidelined for a while. But a lot of people are kind of insinuating that this is actually Peyton's fault, that he kind of has a history of leading players into big hits, and that he kind of needs to be a little bit more careful with a veteran like Welker who's already had issues in the past.
People are just now figuring that out about Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning has been doing that since he got in the league. It's just he's of the protected class. He can do things. Elway, Brett Favre, Jim Kelly, Dan Marino, they can throw a football so hard across the middle that it breaks your index finger. But you respect the fact that that guy is willing to put that much gumph on that throw to break your finger, and they get away with those things. And it's unfortunate, but I think I was just telling you, I think it's Demaryius Thomas is the receiver that'll step in to the full-time role and go away from just being a package guy. They won't even look back with that team. There's so many weapons on the Broncos, and that's a whole nother discussion. But they're just going to replace him with another All-Pro. So who's really losing? Wes Welker is the only person losing out, and anybody who drafted him on their fantasy team.
And we're going to get to fantasy as well, though. I know you want to talk about fantasy football, but there are even people suggesting that it's time for Welker to hang it up. That he's had so many, I think he's had something like 11 concussions or something like that in his career, that, like, look, man, if you continue to get concussed, your years later on in life are going to be pure hell.
Listen, guys like Welker, myself, Stink on ESPN growing his chili, whenever he gets done playing football, and myself, whenever I figure out how to make a pile of money, which I'm still working on, I'm going to be sitting out in a rocking chair on some ranch in the middle of nowhere with all 3,000 of my cattle, and I'm going to be mumbling to myself.
Yeah, I mean,
but who's going to care then?
Well, you will if you can't remember how to get back to your house. If you're out there wandering around on your ranch, and all of a sudden you can't remember which house is yours.
All I'm saying, man, is, if you're from the country, which I know you are, there's a lot of stories of good old men who have lived out their final years on some farm or some ranch somewhere, a little loopy, but everybody gives them a pass because they know they put their work in. And I'm telling you, when I look at old Blue Eyes, that's what I call him, Wes Welker. That's old Blue Eyes right there. Look at the man's NFL picture on the website. It is like freaky. It looks like a mix between a serial killer and literally Frank Sinatra.
Blue Steel.
Yeah, there you go.
Reminds me of
Blue Steel. I like that.
But
yeah,
the funny thing about this, the injury itself's not funny, but what was funny was Peyton Manning's reaction. Did you see this? All of a sudden, we had a tough guy Peyton Manning sighting as he threw a touchdown pass, went running down the field and got into the face of what's the guy's name? DJ Swearinger, who was the guy that put the hit on Welker that caused the concussion, and he got flagged for taunting, 15 yards. Very Peyton Manning, not like him at all, really.
It just shows that if it was Manziel, they'd blow it out of proportion. It can happen to anybody. It's just that the Bradys and the Mannings don't get tested as much as the Rivers do, or the who's another guy that I used to just get angry with. The guys I'm talking about are always in the other players' faces. They're in their own players' faces. It looks like they don't have control of their huddle. But you got to remember, not everybody plays for the Patriots. I had this discussion earlier today.
I think Steve Smith is the all-time master of that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of got that going. But Matt Castle had a winning season with the Patriots. I would love to see Tom Brady go quarterback some of these ragtag organizations they call NFL teams, like the Browns, the Raiders, and see if he doesn't eventually lose his cool. They'll be like, oh my gosh, did you see that sideline shot of Tom Brady flipping off the team and telling them to get the hell? Anything's possible when there's emotions that are high.
Jay Cutler used to do it all the time.
Yeah.
I saw a slideshow of Jay Cutler flipping off like 4 different defensive lines. Like he did it all the damn time.
I love it.
And I was going to save this for our fantasy talk. But speaking of Matt Castle, I was just scratching my head on this one. The Vikings have named him starter over Bridgewater.
I know.
What in the hell are they thinking? I'm a Chiefs fan. I know Castle. I've seen plenty of that. I don't need to see any more of my Chiefs, but it's like, a talent like Bridgewater, and you're going to start Castle?
I don't know.
I mean, are they expecting to just win games right out of the gate and don't want to allow any, growing time for Bridgewater? It just doesn't make sense to me.
It didn't make sense to me either, because he's done really well. The guy's had a great preseason. Out of all the rookie quarterbacks, I want to say he's up there, him and the young man out of Central Florida, Bortles. Bortles is doing pretty good. But as far as that goes, they're the only guys I can see getting honest time. And then you're going to try and put Manziel into the split quarterback situation. Heard an interesting thing about that from Trick Green when he was doing your game over the weekend. He's up there in the booth. And it really brought up memories. In high school and a couple times in college, I was in 2 quarterback systems where you'd have a guy come in and he'd run kind of wildcat packages, a lot of option type stuff. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get 3 or 4 games into your season and the players would start to pick their favorite. The fans will pick their favorite. Even the coaches pick their favorite.
The lines always know who the better player is.
Yes. Everybody picks their favorite.
Sure.
And you think to yourself, who's going to have all the flash and swag on Sunday? Who's going to do the things that are going to make it into the top 10? Because it's not really about who's better nowadays. It's about who can just steal that 10-second highlight on Monday morning. Manziel's going to do that. And when that happens, that's going to present a problem. So, you got to watch out for these kind of things because we all get caught up in this NFL talk, and it's so crazy. I'm so damn excited, Sean. I don't know where to go from here.
Well,
my Cowboys suck.
Yeah, I was going to say it might not be the best season. I caught that Dallas-Miami game. And
the wheels are coming off.
I'm not even a fan of either team, and I wanted to put a bag over my head. Talk about unwatchable, sloppy football. Jesus.
Well, and then, maybe that game was to, overshadow the fact that Mr. Cognito's coming back. Did you ever think
he's cleared to sign with any NFL team he wants to
sign?
Visited with the Bucks
today, and he's got like 3 or 4 more deals going on. But isn't it funny how Mike Vick came back into the league after his dog incident and all the protests, all the talk shows, and Incognito? He threatened the life of a human being.
Honestly, I think Incognito's probably an asshole in real life, but honestly, I mean, after all the details, the back and forth with him and Martin came forward, it seemed like they were friends. It seemed like they just had sick ass senses of humor. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's probably guilty of being a jerk, but I don't know. I never really like after all the details came forth, I don't really feel all that bad for Jonathan Martin. And I think Incognito might have gotten a little bit of an unfair shake. But hold on, though. We gotta get to the other injuries. Cam Newton, that's another big time one. He has a hairline fracture in one of his ribs. And that ordinarily might not be that big of a problem for a quarterback, but you got to remember Cam Newton's style of play. He runs a lot. He gets hit a lot. In fact, I saw this stat from ESPN's Twitter. Cam Newton has taken 467 sacks or hits over the last 3 seasons, more than double any other quarterback in that span.
That hurts.
Now, granted, that's sacks and hits, which are definitely not the same thing. If
you run the read option,
if you run a lot, you're gonna take hits. We know that about all these mobile quarterbacks. But
even when he passes, it's a read option.
You just got to wonder what kind of. I mean, is he gonna have the physical stamina? Is he gonna be able to stay injury free after this? Kind of sounds like one of those little nagging injuries.
If Romo can do it, I think Cam can do it. Because if you think about Romo's ribs of the past 3 seasons, we'll get 4 or 5 games in. He'll get a hairline fracture. He has to wear that plate. They'll all be panicking about him. And Romo will still be running and diving and sliding. So, and, ribs are just one of those things. They can't do anything but heal. There's no medicine you can take. There's no yoga position.
Put some tussin.
Some tussin on it. Get some tussin.
Let it soak down to the bone.
Oh, man, that tussin is good stuff, isn't it? But that's all you can do. So Warriors are going to play. That's what I think's funny is the same guys. Like I remember in college, played a football season with a running back that didn't have, what is it? Your outside ones are your ACL. Your inside ones, your MCL.
I am not a doctor.
Oh, I forget. You have to Google that. If you're out there, Google it. But whatever one you needed to stabilize you and keep you standing upright, he had. The one that wouldn't allow you to make lateral cuts, he didn't have. So for a season, because he knew he was going to Alabama the next year, and he had a redshirt year, and Alabama knew he was injured, this dude literally had him give him a shot to the knee, wrap the knee up, and he was just downhill running the whole season. Wouldn't make a cut left or right. If you got in his way, he was running you over. So I'm not surprised when these guys play with concussions, hairline fractures, and ankles, and wrist, they don't matter to football players.
This injury just sounds painful. BJ Raji.
Oh, that was the one I
tore
was talking about.
Bicep. Oh God! And that's not a big flashy name, but that's a very important player for that team.
Big time.
Yeah,
big time. They were making adjustments in their defensive line front so he could have more movement because of last year with the triple teams and everything he was suffering. So they went and revamped their line play for this guy, and now he doesn't have a bicep. I have seen that happen, a guy bench pressing. He tore a pec. I've seen a guy do a bicep. That's what I was wondering how it actually happened. I was like, what was he pushing to where he ripped that? A big guy like
Did it happen in
Raji?
a game? Or?
That's what I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out when this actually happened. Because if he was pressing weight of that stature.
I was thinking he probably had his arm extended and was trying to hold somebody back, and maybe it got
That's what I was trying to find out, because I was looking. It's funny how these stories happen. You can find out about Jamal Charles in a box, hurting himself moving a box. But BJ Raji, it's hard to kind of get the details. I don't know if it was in a game or if he was in practice. It sounded like a weightlifting injury when I first heard it, and that's what I want to find out, because if he's still pressing that kind of weight at this time of year, usually the trainers will have him scale back so these things don't happen.
So speaking of all these injuries, Bo, I was curious, and I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to this since you are a former Division I football player. But with all these injuries, and it just seems like it's getting worse and worse every year. As the father of 2 boys, do you intend to let your kids play football if that's something that they want to do?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer for me. A lot of people, I have guys that I played football with, they're dead set. Oh, my son's not playing this game. I had this many concussions. Yeah, if you were that guy, like I say in boxing, if you tried to be a boxer for 2 generations, your dad was, and then you were, and you guys kept getting knocked out in the second round, and you had a weak chin, you should probably stop boxing.
Yeah.
I was the type of guy, I could lead into piles with my head. I used to crack helmets for a long time. You never got concussions. I think I got one mild concussion that they registered in college, and it was only because I really wasn't paying attention and somebody caught me from the side from Colorado State. That was the only time. But I just think there's football players, and then there's people who maybe should have played quarterback. You can be in different positions in football and not take the beating that a D lineman, a linebacker, and an offensive lineman are going to take in a running back, because those are physical positions and they're not made for everybody. But I coach high school football now, Sean, and you can see it at that level. As a coach, you protect kids. That's what I think being a good youth football coach is about. You see a kid that maybe is a little frail. You're like, oh my gosh, if he gets hit from the side and a pile fell on him, he's going to lose his pelvic bones.
Don't talk about Tom Brady like that.
Yeah, that kind of guy, big old lanky guy. You have to protect him. You're not going to see a kid like that, and he's the only kid that can throw the ball 40 yards and be like, all right, boys, we're running the wing T triple option this year. No, you don't do things like that. And, my kids, if they're going to play football, yes, I'm protecting them. That's what kind of father I am. I'm going to be that way until they're old and they're probably sick of me trying to protect them. But I think the good fathers in sports, whether it's baseball, hockey, cross country, you get involved. Mothers, you can do it too. And you make sure your kid is not being abused. If your son is faster than everybody else, don't allow some youth coach to let your kid touch the ball 45 times and score 7 touchdowns every Saturday for 7 years, because you're just wearing his little body down. And I see that all across the country, Sean. You see these ridiculous youth football stats, and you're like, is the kid going to get paid? Did Nike sign a deal with him and say, hey, little Billy, if you get 65 touchdowns this year in youth football, we're going to give you an extra $150K. It doesn't work like that. So, yeah, I'd let my kids play, and I urge anybody else out there, get your kids involved in sports, but be there. Don't just be dropping them off at practice. Watch them.
Now, from the actual game on the field to the game that all of us normal Joes and nerds like to play, fantasy football. It's a growing industry, Bo. I know you're big into it, and all around the country, people are having their drafts right now. So do you have any helpful tips and guidelines for how to do well at fantasy this year?
I stay to the tips that I get from ESPN, CBS, NFL, because with them running a lot of the leagues, they have all the statistics. They get to compile all the stats. So they're able to tell you things that out of all the league champions, they all had this in common. And last year, a lot of the league champions, it was something like 88%. Their first 3 players they drafted were the 3 players that scored all the points. Like these guys would score over 75% of the points every Sunday. So I stuck to those rules. I hope that this works out for me this year. I kind of went out on a limb with Welker, and I'm paying for it right now.
Yeesh.
Yeah, that sucks. But you got to get a Bronco. Don't you agree?
No, that's why I don't play fantasy football, because it makes me do stupid things like root for the Broncos.
You got to get a Bronco. They're going to score points, man. And, I'm hoping I'm talking to Sean. I have a buddy. His initials are CIA. No joke. Legal initials, CIA. He's a fantasy guru. I want to bring him in sometimes, let him talk, because this guy knows his business, and I'm in his league. I'm in one of my leagues with him. And you get to talking with these guys, and it took me a while, Sean. That was my biggest problem. You got to put your bias out at the door, because
I don't want to put my bias at the door. That's what makes me love football, hating the Broncos.
You will love this even more because you get to become a GM. This is everybody's chance to be a general manager.
I don't want to be John Elway.
I don't want to be John Elway. I want to be Jerry Jones. Let's get that correct. I want to be, finding 5-year-old picture servicing that I don't remember. That's the guy I want to be. But no, here's one thing, because there's not a lot of fantasy football. Obviously, we're not playing with the games not going. You got to watch out for this. There is a bunch of players out there right now on suspension, and we're going to, talk more about that. But Sean, we're sitting there trying to do our draft, and this is like embarrassing almost, because we as Americans, we love football. We sit around and talk about this game all day while we're supposed to be getting work done. I don't care if you deliver pizzas, you do people's taxes, or if you're a fireman. I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of firemen that have been working an accident, and they've got off on a tangent about some NFL game they're watching back at the firehouse. It's happened. But with that being said, it is so embarrassing when you're sitting there and after the 3rd round, from the 4th round to the 12th round, everybody's drafting, and you're like, Oh, man, that guy's on a 4-game suspension for failing a drug test. Oh, man, that guy's on a 2-game suspension for beating up his wife. Just, if we put a list together right now on the show live right now, started searching it, I guarantee it'd take us 20 minutes to put together everybody that's waiting a suspension in the NFL. So, with that being said, just good luck, because everybody else is dealing with it. You're going to have players on your bench, and even if you're just a fan like Sean and you can't put your bias at the door, you're going to have somebody sitting out the first week or a suspension that's awaiting for week 5 or 6. It's going to derail your whole playoff push.
All right, well, speaking of suspensions, we got some big controversial ones that we're going to be talking about coming up. Plus, Bo, exciting news, man. Somebody owes us a drink.
Uh-oh.
It's coming up on the Sean and Bo Show.
Hello, podcast fans. Adam Carolla here. I'm leading the fight against patent trolls who are threatening this medium. It's not about me. It's about the podcast you're listening to right now. If I go down, this show could be next. Visit fundanything.com/patent troll for more information on how you can keep podcasting alive. Thank you and mahalo.
Hey everybody, it's the Sean and Bo Show. Thanks for sticking around. We're coming right back hard and fast, jumping right back into Sean's favorite discussion. Anytime we can talk about the Denver Broncos, Sean gets a smile on his face. It's ear to ear. It's beautiful. And if you were listening to the last segment, I was just explaining to Sean how if you have any sense in fantasy football, you get your hands on a Denver Bronco. Well, this problem arose for me this weekend. We wanted to get him on my team, but somebody let me know that Mr. Prater, the Denver Broncos kicker, was going to be suspended like everybody else in the league. What happened, Sean?
4 games because he drank 3 beers at his house while he was on vacation.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, I'm not interested in regurgitating the same tired take that you're going to hear on every other sports talk show, which is, he got suspended for beer. Well, Ray Rice hit his wife. Well, no, he didn't get suspended for drinking beer. He got suspended because he agreed not to drink beer after 2 DUIs and drank beer. It's stupid is what it is. It's like, I don't feel sorry for the guy. He made a deal, a plea bargain. Part of that deal was that you can't drink. And what did he do? He drank.
Yep.
Simple as that. As far as I'm concerned, it's like, good. If you're going to agree to something and you're a professional, Bo, at your job, if you agree to abide by a certain standard, it really doesn't matter how stupid you think the standard is. If you agree to abide by that, you're going to face the consequences.
Oh, yeah. One of the stupidest ones I have to deal with is because we play on artificial turf everywhere in America. Even high school fields have it. You're not allowed to chew sunflower seeds on the sidelines anymore because the sunflower seeds mess up the drainage with the water and all that. Oh, it's a silly rule, but it can literally get you a game suspension as a coach. So you have to abide by it. You can't be out there with sunflower seeds every year, Sean.
So you just have a couple of baked potatoes in your pockets.
I just keep baked potatoes, a little bit of ranch dressing,
Keep it in a Gatorade bottle.
But no, every year, like clockwork. Oh, did you hear about that coach? Oh, yeah, he's chewing sunflower seeds on a city field. Got suspended for a game.
What a thug.
Yeah. It's like, come on, man. So here's Prater. He's not giving a good example for the children. You got to do it for the kids, man. Don't drink a beer. If you told Goodell you weren't going to have a beer, don't have the beer. That's all we got to say about that. And stop taking that. You know what that angle is, Sean? It's that tired old, like, I'm an American. What I do behind closed doors is my own. No. Whenever you get a paycheck from anyone in any industry, you give up a lot of those rights. You are now a paid employee of a corporation. And the last time I checked, those same people that argue about those rights made corporations people a few months back. So now that corporations are people, it's like you've entered into a marriage with another human being. So you better believe entering into a marriage with Roger Goodell and the machine that is the NFL.
Oh, that sounds sexy.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I wish I could marry Roger Goodell. He makes $20 million a year. Golly, just give me 3%. I'll be fine, Raj.
It's going to make you sign a prenup, bro.
I just want a Chevy. I bet he got to get his daughter an Audi or a Mercedes. I'll take a Chevy. About 20,000 used truck. I'll be good to go. And my ranch so I can live out my days with my dementia.
I saw a cherry 79 Camaro the other day. I thought about you.
Gosh.
Speaking of suspensions, though, Bo, my favorite quote of the week. I didn't know they could get a DUI for being high. That's courtesy of Mr. Bell of the Steelers. Le'Veon Bell and LeGarrette Blount, I'm sure you heard the story, got pulled over on an afternoon in broad daylight, and the police officer says that he done smelled the weed. He said that there was a strong odor of marijuana emanating from the partially open driver's side window. Quote, Bell's eyes were red and glassy, and his pupils were dilated. Must have been some good stuff. I asked him if he or any of his passengers smoked marijuana today, and he replied, it was about a minute ago.
At least he's honest.
Gotta admire that honesty. So they're going to get suspended. No shock there. But
what town were they in?
Let's see here. 22-year-old. No, this doesn't say where the arrest was.
Man.
I think California. I think Elk Grove, California.
Oh, because, you know, my grandfather, long-time law enforcement officer, state of Indiana, ended up being a police chief for several years. My brother is currently a sheriff's deputy. I don't know if they're doing things wrong or a lot of the guys that I was raised around who were called themselves peace officers. But whenever somebody like that came through your town and slipped up, you got some tickets. Whatever happened to the good old days where we didn't hear about these stories, and then that cop tells some beat reporter this story 10 years down the road, and it's on a little excerpt in a Penthouse magazine or something, and you're like, did you hear that story about LeGarrette Blount and Le'Veon Bell? Or like the one, what was the YouTube video you showed me of the perfect game that the player threw for the Pittsburgh?
Oh, Doc Ellis.
Doc Ellis. Yeah. Like, things like that. Like, you know, come on, let's just sweep it under the rug. 10 years from now, we'll have a laugh about it.
One of my favorite parts about this story, Bo, is the details. Mr. Bell, I'm reading a article from the Post-Gazette, the Pittsburgh newspaper. Mr. Bell, 22, told the police that there was marijuana in the glove box, but a police dog alerted them to the center console where officers found a plastic baggie that he, Mr. Blount, and Mercedes Dolson, it was the girl that was with them, huh?
Mercedes. I bet
what
she's
she does
a
for a living.
CPA,
Yeah.
you know.
Substitute teacher.
So, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they found the plastic baggie in the center console, and then they told police that they had, quote, all pitched in to buy it. Yeah. Now, I don't know whether to be disappointed in these millionaires for being so cheap that they don't each individually buy their own weed, or proud of them for displaying some teamwork in their misdemeanor behavior.
Yeah, well,
they're all pitching in. They're all getting together on it.
Hey, I hope that the NFL PLA or whatever they're called gets together and they decide to just put these players in marijuana-friendly cities from now on. Because what is it? New York, Denver, Seattle.
I don't think it matters. I think it's still against NFL policy whether or not it's against the law or not. You know, there's the law and then there's the NFL law.
Yeah, that is true. The law of Goodell.
Yeah. Bo's faithful husband. Now, a couple interesting polls I saw here, Bo. The first of which was the question that this is an ESPN NFL Nation confidential poll. They surveyed 100 plus players. The question was, the only way I'd play for X team is if they doubled my salary. So it's basically asking players, where would you not ever want to play for?
I got the two teams on that list.
Okay, you think you can predict this? Because I know you haven't seen this.
The Raiders and the Buccaneers.
You're 1 for 2.
Ugh.
Raiders was the winner, I guess you could call them. They scored 23% of the 82 respondents. The other teams that you don't want to play for, Buffalo Bills, 19%. Ooh. Makes sense, shitty weather. Cleveland Browns, 16%. You'll remember Mr. Noah's quote on Cleveland. What's so cool about Cleveland? Does anyone go on vacation there? What's the big deal about Cleveland? Behind them, the Jacksonville Jaguars at 9%, who, for my money, have the absolute god-awful uniforms in the entire league. They need to throw those damn things away, and I mean, anything would be better than that.
They got to go back to the drawing board on that.
The creamsicles would be better than that. Green Bay Packers, which is shocking to me at 6%. But I'm guessing that the Bills and the Packers, it's just weather related and probably lack of nightlife or anything to do in those
that's what I was
towns.
getting ready to say. That and your real estate and like, could you imagine trying to live in Green Bay? Like, what do those guys do? If you have all that equity piled up from some coastal city and you move into Green Bay, like, you just buy the last guy's house that left.
I'll tell you what you do. You don't go broke.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be spending any of your money. If you're smart, you want to play in a city like that.
Houses in the Midwest, my dad purchased a home back in the 80s for like $9,500. And
Jeez.
I go back to my
Is it in
hometown
Detroit?
in Indiana. They still sell houses for $12,000. Now, granted, it's not Green Bay, Wisconsin, but there's a Toyota factory there. It's just Midwest real estate. And I just wonder if stuff like that weighs in because them guys are corporations. They're walking corporations.
Okay, and we were talking about this outside just a minute ago, Bo. Of all the players in the NFL, who would you least like to get into a physical altercation with?
I had that conversation this weekend, actually, when you brought that up right away. Tom Ali. That man.
My chief, smart man, Bo.
And then you tell me that the man does UFC and he's all balance tested, battle tested, ready to go. Yeah, I was looking at him on the field.
Bo, there's this video of him, not to interrupt, this video of him balancing, standing. Or no, he's on his knees. He's balanced on his knees on one of those giant inflatable exercise balls.
Horrible.
And he like flips a coin up with one hand and catches it midair in the other.
Oh my
God. Pretty impressive.
He's like a sensei.
Yeah, he's like, he does all this crazy crap in the off season. He gets like big guys to sit on skateboards and pulls them uphill and does all this crazy MMA endurance training and balance training and wow. There's a reason those Broncos are always trying to choke him out as he tries to sack Peyton and never gets called.
I have a whole new light and respect in which I look at Tom Ali.
He's a
I've
beast.
watched him play, and I've often wondered where it came from. I didn't know that he did that much on his own. That whenever you see a player like that, it just screams longevity. The guys that do those types of off-season workouts and are motivated, he's going to play a 13, 15 season career. Be like a lot of your great defensive ends, Bruce Smiths, your Reggie Whites. They'll play a long time if they like to do that kind of stuff.
But interestingly enough, about this poll, okay, now let me see if you can guess this, Bo. And listeners out there, think about this long and hard here. There are only 2 players in the entire league, the winner of this poll in second place, that scored over 10%.
Ooh.
2 players. Who you got?
Ray's gone. So that one's off.
Ray doesn't count unless he's in a white suit. The only thing you got to worry about is a good sermon.
Goodness, that's a tough one.
All right, winner is 18% of the vote. Ndamukong Suh.
Oh yeah. Oh,
you don't want to fight that dude.
Yeah,
no.
I forgot all about Ndamukong.
Can you imagine running into that dude in a dark alley?
You can't outrun him.
You can't outrun him. You can't do anything.
He'll kick your head like a soccer ball.
He will tear your arm off and beat you with it.
that is Gigantopithecus with a mouth. Like, that's Gigantopithecus speaking English and whatever region of Africa he's from and other languages he knows. That is scary.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Number 2? Any guess on number 2?
Well, if Ndamukong's off
it's
the
not
list,
Tamba Hali.
And it's not Tamba Ali. Maybe James Laurinaitis because his dad taught him some wrestling moves.
Nope. J.J. Watt.
J.J. Watt with the long arms. I'm telling you, man, it's all about reach.
When we were watching Hard Knocks last week, Bo, was it last week?
2 weeks ago.
Well, the one where they were doing the joint practice with the Texans.
Oh, I haven't seen that. You got to show me that.
Oh my God, dude! I gained so much more respect for J.J. Watt. Like he's devastating, dude. He's just so much better than other players at his position. He's just so physically strong. He's a straight up mutant, and he's fast, and he's smart. He knows how to get in position. I kind of agree with both of those. We're not doing a tag team wrestling event against Sue and Watt anytime soon, though. So
no, definitely not.
Put that belt down.
I wouldn't even do that for charity.
No. Hell,
sorry.
Screw charity. I wouldn't do that if I got paid. All right, Bo. Possibly the most important story of the week because it involves someone owing us some alcohol, Bo. I don't know if you heard about this. But there was a random Twitter user, and I just love how you can just be some random jerk out there and say something on Twitter, and if it's prophetic enough, ESPN is going to replay it and show your ugly mug on TV.
Amazing.
There is this guy at Square Knight. His name is Fisher King. He said in a tweet, he said, Rams versus Browns tonight. If Michael Sam sacks Johnny Football and gives the money signs, drinks are on me for everyone in the world, forever. So guess what happened? The third quarter, he did it.
You got it.
And I mean, he did everything. He sacked him. He got up, did the money sign, did the like archery to the heavens move, and so I was sitting here waiting for my bourbon.
Yeah.
But instead of paying up on his bed, oh God. What a jerk.
People who welch on bets are the worst.
He responded to a tweet from Michael Sam at Michael Sam NFL, said, I heard there was a drink offer. In lieu of that, at Square Night, the Boys and Girls Club of Greater St. Louis could use some help. Thanks a lot, Michael. I was about to get a 6-pack and maybe a 5th of Jack. You know, why you got to ruin it for us just for those kids? Don't they have enough stuff?
Man,
what about me?
Kids always get everything.
I
I
know.
work in a public school.
God.
Trust me, people, our tax dollars are hard at work. The problem is none of the kids are.
Yeah. So he responded, proud to have made a donation to the St. Louis Boys and Girls Club in honor of Sam's great play. I'm a product of a Boys and Girls Club, too.
Yeah.
To which Sam came back and responded, well done and much appreciated. Whatever, Michael Sam. I was a fan of yours until you cost me some booze.
Yeah, Mr. Sam, you owe us a drink, buddy.
All right.
Hit us up.
Well, we're going to be watching the last meaningless preseason game, just squinting our eyes, maybe drinking a few extra beer, just pretending that it was real football, but it's right around the corner. So until next week, I'm Sean O'Donnell, along with my co-host Bo Greer, telling you, tip your pizza man.
See you next week.